high school students. We're engaging our own university faculty and students in entrepreneurship, and we are recruiting many retired and active professionals that are working as mentors. Right now our mentor list is about 110 different individuals that are participating and helping us work with technology ventures. We're also working with, we're preparing our entrepreneurs for regional and national and even global success in their fields. We most recently, just 2 weeks ago, we had Renaissance Fiber, which is a company that has developed a proprietary process for degumming hemp fibers so they can be made into yarn. They just worked with one of our mentoring teams and received a $50,000 NCIDS seed grant. The only other $50,000 seed grant we've received from this statewide program went to My Beehive, which is another company that has been working with us through our programs. So we want to continue to attract capital and help our companies receive investment. Next slide. Because before I get into that, let me just point out that there are a couple of things that we do at UNCW with the work we're doing in film, media, and design, and marine sciences, and in health and education. Those are STEM fields that tend to attract more women entrepreneurs and more minority entrepreneurs than many of the other traditional STEM fields. So we feel like we're having a lot of success in developing our women-owned businesses. In fact, in the last round of the SOAR Accelerator, which is a statewide business accelerator for women-owned ventures, out of the 7 in the cohort, 3 of them were from Wilmington. And that's a statewide program. We also, of course, with advancing sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, we're working, we are the host for a 6-state region to develop entrepreneurs that have innovative solutions to the challenges faced by the marine environment, and we are connecting them with investors from around the world. So that's one of our key programs. And then we are supporting a lot of veteran programs. We are working in collaboration with Bunker Labs with their program, with the SBA with their Boots to Business, and we have other things that we're doing through the university and our military liaison to develop entrepreneurial opportunities for our veterans. So, and of course, supporting high school and college student entrepreneurs. So, next slide. But a vital component of all of this is the capital connections, and Rob will be addressing that with wearing his second hat, and that's vital fuel for our entrepreneurs. And we've had some notable success over the past couple of years in connecting our entrepreneurs with opportunities to receive funding for their ventures, but that's something that we don't have a lot of here right now in Wilmington, where we have a very we have an opportunity, we have a lot of high net worth individuals, but we don't have a lot of engagement in having those individuals participate as angel investors in helping to fuel some of these business successes. Next slide. So some of the logos I'm sure look familiar to you, and if you think about it, many of them are the companies that have received investments in their growth, and those are some of the most successful companies we have. I did leave off the elephant, of course, Live Oak Bank being incredible success story from the entrepreneurship sense, but we've had many others, Lapidus Solutions, Encino, Connected Investors that just won our Coastal Entrepreneur Awards as the Entrepreneur of the Year. A lot of really exciting things are happening with these companies. So, next slide. So, that is it for me. I hope I didn't go too much over the 10 minutes.
Tom, Rob, any questions for this woman?
Can we hold until we're done with the panel? Or
would you like to do that?
I think it makes sense that way.
Yeah. Okay, great. Tom Bennett is with the Brian Hamilton Foundation. If you don't know what the Brian Hamilton Foundation is yet, you've certainly seen the billboards and we go. Lots of you in Raleigh, a couple few here, what, 3 here now?
3 here in Wilmington.
3 here in Wilmington. That's kind of an investment. They're making a serious investment in our region. So understanding what they're trying to do and their role and how that's going to impact economic development is really, really important to us as we try to go forward. So would you mind just taking a minute here and giving us an overview?
Thank you, Ann. Let me first by saying I'm honored to be actually sitting next to Diane and Rob. I can tell you that 5 months ago, I was the guy banging on the door, introducing myself here to Wilmington after Brian asked me to come to Wilmington and kind of build a network and share his passion for entrepreneurship. And I do want to back up a little bit and tell you a little bit about that. I met Brian 37 years ago in college. We were best friends in college, and Brian's entrepreneurial journey brought him to Raleigh, where he had some coin-operated laundries, he did some landscaping, he got his MBA from Duke. He then started a company called Sagebridge, which was the first financial tech company, or one of the first financial tech companies in Raleigh back at that time. It was also the first financial tech company to actually use artificial intelligence to analyze the financial data, sell it to Bank of America and Intuit, and all of that. But during that time, it's also important to note that Brian's desire to help people started a program called Inmates to Entrepreneurs that started 27 years ago, where Brian had a pastor friend, and they went into doing some prison ministry, and simply Brian was talking to somebody that had been incarcerated and said, hey, what are you going to do when you get out? And the gentleman said, well, I'm going to go get a job. And Brian knew at that point how challenging it was going to be for that person to get that job, and that's where he said, let me go in and start teaching low capital, bootstrap type businesses and give them some self-reliance skills and the ability to actually go out and create their own job. Fast forward, last year Brian sells Sageworks for one of the largest financial transactions in the history of North Carolina. But rather than rest on his laurels and take a break and drink pina coladas, which I would have done, he decided to actually expand the foundation, actually start the Brian Hamilton Foundation. So part of that work is actually then kind of expanding, and so my role in that foundation is actually I am one of the entrepreneurial evangelists. I actually network around and I tell Brian's story. I also teach within the inmates program with Diane, who was gracious enough to teach with us last time. She also did last year during before and then also after the hurricane. With that said, my mission is to go out there and share Brian's passion for helping veterans and helping youth and helping people that have criminal records, and also kind of on a national basis, basically lay the groundwork and the seeds of entrepreneurship. We always seem to quote the Kauffman Foundation. The one quote that is especially related to this topic here that I wanted to quote, and the difference that we're trying to make with the foundation is that the Kauffman Foundation, we keep referencing Kauffman Foundation, but they do very, very good work, is that a lot of communities focus on bringing large companies in for jobs. And at the end of the day, the likeliness of that large company, whether it's coming here to Wilmington or going to Kaiser City, which I've been to, that has an incubator grant of $800,000, it can be very, very unlikely. So the question is, how do you organically grow entrepreneurship within your ecosystem, especially here in the Cape Fear and Wilmington area? In that mission and that thought, Brian is, well, you know what we got to do? We need to go to the youth. We need to go to the middle schools. And we need to change the mindset of these. So we have an initiative where we go in, and Brian has already spoken to over 6,000 youths in North Carolina, and we teach them entrepreneurship light. What is a business? What is a product? What is a service? We talk about it. We talk about the skills that's required. We go into the schools like we did on April 8th. We went to DC Berg and we taught 60 to 80 students what it's all about. Help them understand what having a small business can do for them. And we demonstrated through that. We've been to GLOW. We've been, like I said, through I think over 30 schools just this year alone, and trying to change the mindset. Because when you can change the mindset that before was a 4-year track to go to college, 4-year degree, go into the military, there's a very robust community college system here in North Carolina. And the trades actually pay very, very well here. So actually, if you go into the schools and say, you know what, you can be an HVAC technician, you can be a welder, you can be a car mechanic, and you can do very well with it. And you can work for somebody and do it, but more importantly, you actually can go out there and actually start your own business and then hire another mechanic. So it helps the ecosystem to develop that mindset change, so that here in Wilmington, the K-3 region, and really and Brian's mission is all of North Carolina, is how do we organically grow a small business? So that's passion number one. Passion number two is certainly Brian's desire to help those with criminal records. We have demonstrated it here in Wilmington twice so far with our class that we're graduating, I think 14 next week. And part of that is actually giving them the education, giving them the mentor support, and giving them the education they need to start that low capital bootstrap business. It's so important, think of it this way, there are more people with criminal records than there are with people with college degrees. It's almost 30% of the population have something. It's a ticket, they get Googled, they get searched, they don't get the opportunity, they don't get a job. But not only does inmates entrepreneurs actually give them that self-reliance skill set of education, but also might also make them a very good employee. They'll learn about a balance sheet, like Diane was teaching you last night. They'll learn about an income statement. They'll learn what it takes to actually run a business. So I think the value of inmates to entrepreneurs actually goes beyond just actually the education piece. It's self-reliance and things of that nature. We also have a very strong veterans initiative. We're also a partner with Bunker Labs, where we go in. I was on Camp Lejeune almost 12 days yesterday, actually at the brig, trying to figure out a plan by which we actually help Marines that are in the brig get education on entrepreneurship, so when they actually get released out, they have the opportunity to sort of start a small business. We also, lastly, have an online course that Brian actually was able, with his technology, some people said it's going to take 18 months to develop this free online course. We did it in 4 months. We have hundreds of people taking the class. I don't know how many graduated so far, but more importantly, 30 people, 30 states are represented in that demographic of that. But more importantly, it's Brian's passion is to go out there and drop the seeds of entrepreneurship in not only North Carolina, but hopefully nationally. So that's our mission, that's our goal. If there's any way that you can see that we can help people here in Wilmington and the Cape region, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you later about that. But again, our goal and our objective is simply to set as many seeds of entrepreneurship in the community as we can. And that's our message.
You know him as Mr. Business Journal, but Rob Kaiser is also an entrepreneur. I mean, he started Business Journal really, and he's got it going and making a lot of headway here for a lot of businesses in this town. But Rob's also one of the co-founders of Quit. I don't know if you knew that or not, but that's a real big, high-rising star in the world of entrepreneurship here. So he certainly got that under his belt as well. But he's here to talk to us about the other new thing going on that's going to significantly impact entrepreneurship here, which is funding. So Rob has agreed to work with Venture South and be the primary representative feet on the ground here for them. He'll tell you a little bit more about what they are and what kind of impact that's going to have on entrepreneurs here, but also on economic development in the long run.
Thank you. So to take a step back first, before I talk about Venture South, one thing, the CIE and the Business Journal have worked for a while on the Coastal Entrepreneur Awards program that Diane mentioned. So last year we had the 10th anniversary, which is kind of a good, when we're talking about entrepreneurship, it's kind of a good perspective of how far we have come. And I think a lot of people are working on programs that are going to help us go further. But we kind of took a step back and looked at, so what was happening 10 years ago, now 11 years ago. So one, no live oak bank, which of course means no MC, no aperture. Castle Branch was a still relatively small business downtown here in the Cotton Exchange. No Untapped, a lot of other things. Not to mention no convention center, no Wilson Center, and most importantly, no Waffle House downtown. But if you look at a lot of the things that have been created, it was really, it was PPD, which at that point had been about 20 plus years in terms of, large entrepreneurial institutions that have grown up here. And especially, I think, if you look at the tech influence of, stuff like Untapped and Connected Investor and a lot of the others that Diane had on her slide. So, I think oftentimes we'll get compared to Charlotte or Atlanta or other bigger areas. And obviously, there's more entrepreneurial things there, but when you really look at a snapshot from 10 years ago and current, there is a big difference. So, one thing though that is, has been mentioned before, that is missing is funding. And that oftentimes is the lifeblood of getting these types of companies going. So my introduction to Venture South was, I'm involved in a company called Quit since online marketplace where businesses can rent and lease equipment. That's about as much as I know about it. My business partner, who's the tech guy, really, his job is to grow that. My job is to keep us, our money in our bank accounts with the Business Journal in Wilma. But, so we raised, friends and family money first, pretty much locally, and then he got connected with Venture South, which is based in Greenville, and went through a pretty long due diligence process with them, and passed whatever tests they had, and then he went on a road show, and went to 12 different markets in North and South Carolina, so Charlotte, Charleston, Asheville, Greenville, South Carolina, many others. The thing that stood out to me was he never had to come to Wilmington. He never had to pitch here to raise money in the largest angel network in our region. So we said at the time, well, whenever you want to come here, let us know. We'd be happy to partner. So that's what we're doing now. So we're just kicking off now Venture South Wilmington. So the only other presentations on this I've seen was by Charlie Banks, who is a general partner there and actually knows what he's talking about with this foley. So it's my first time trying to present without him here. So excuse me if I fumble it. But before I forget, Charlie is going to be back in town next week on Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday night at 5 o'clock at Tech Mountain. He will do a much better version of this presentation, a longer version of this presentation. So if I say anything that interests you, please come to Tech Mountain next week, or if you can't make that, let me know. We'll have a couple other sessions as well. So this basically just explains what Venture South is, which the thing that attracted me to it was most angel funds are one person or a small group is responsible for finding potential investments, doing due diligence, pulling people together and managing it all, which is a lot of work. The nice thing that what Venture South has done is they've leveraged a lot of different communities. They've either started angel funds or taken over existing angel funds in all of those markets where you see a dot on. And so what they've done, so they have a full-time dedicated staff. So they have 3 full-time venture capitalists. So basically what it does for us locally is you get the expertise of a real venture capitalist in an angel investment fund that you can do locally. And they handle any company, so like if we hear about a company that we think, hey, this is a really good thing, we can send it to them and they run the whole process. And then people who are here get access to not only good investments here, but good investments from around the Southeast. So these are some numbers which I'll give a few of them. You probably can't see. But, so there's now, I think this is even outdated, there's now 14 angel groups that are a part of this, more than 300 individual investors, which is really key to this model. So you can imagine when there's a company that comes to Venture South and it looks good, and they form a due diligence committee, somebody from Venture South, it's their full-time job to shepherd them through the process. But then they look at these 300 plus people throughout the Southeast who have expertise in pharmaceutical companies or software companies or other areas. They can pull a lot of expertise together to evaluate these things before it even comes to the group, or a lot of the things just get eliminated then if people don't think it has high potential. So there have been more than 3,000 business plans reviewed. 250 companies have passed that process and pitched. $36 million has been invested, and 67 companies have been backed. And over the course, a lot of the companies are still in the process of building and haven't had an exit or anything, but they've already had 18 companies that have exited and had realized gains. So you can go through. So this kind of talks about the process. So I touched on this a little bit. So number one is the screening. So about 4 to 6 companies are screened each month. The presentations are all recorded. So anybody who's a member can view it. They have a whole studio in Greenville, South Carolina, where they film these things. So anybody who's a member can see these presentations, and then members vote on which companies they want to see continue to go through the process. So then the group is formed to do the due diligence, and a report is issued, which is very in-depth. It shows they're graded on a number of different factors in terms of the team, the market size they're addressing, the technology they have, how defensible their position is, and each one is graded on a -2 to 2 level, and then all the members can see all of these markings. They can see how many members of the diligence committee are going to invest themselves. So the ones that move forward then go on this roadshow, like what my business partner did. So they go around to all the different communities, they make the pitch, have their Q&A, and then at the end of it, each individual member decides, okay, do I want to personally invest in that company or not? Venture South pulls together all that money. They have their own dedicated fund, that investments that they make, they'll add some of their own money from that fund to it, and then they manage the whole process from there in terms of all the tax forms and all those things. One of the things that often happens to people who make several investments like this, you get all these K1s at the end of the year and chasing around these companies. So Venture South does all that, and you get one K1 at the end of the year for all your investments that came through Venture South. So next one. So basically, this is the way they summarize, why you should do this. Number one, make money. I mean, this is, obviously people should not put all of their savings in making angel investments, but if this is an interest and, you want to have access to a lot of high growth potential companies, it's a great way to be involved in it. Two is just, just being able to get together with a group of people that, have a diverse experience in business and a lot of industries, and get together and look at up and coming companies in the area, learn about their business models, and and just see a lot of the up and coming things that oftentimes relate back to your business or other things that you're involved in. And then number three, do good, like what we're talking about today. One of the big shortcomings in our community is having capital. So the more we're tied into groups like this, when there is a promising company here, then we're connected to this group. They can get into these roadshows, into these things, and get funding. And, almost as important is the expertise and the connections to keep going from there. Do you want to talk?
You got a few more minutes.
I'll wait time for questions.
Before I let you ask each other questions, I'm going to open it up to the floor. What's your goal for getting the other companies so funded? Have you set any goals for what you would like to get at least one Wilmington company into Venture South this year? Or?
Well, so goal number one is just to form a group. Okay. So basically Venture South headquarters likes to see 7 or 8 people in the group, and then they officially do it, which I think we're actually pretty close to being at that point. My personal goal was for us to get to 20 members. That basically puts us on the road show. If we have 7 or 8, then we're basically simulcasting into something, which is still good because you can still ask live and you can ask questions and things like that. But, obviously with any group like this, the more participation you have, the more perspectives you have, the better. So number one, we're not going to be able to do anything unless we actually have the group formed and ongoing and growing. But then I think Quick is the only company that Venture South has backed from Wilmington. And as Diane's slide showed, there's a lot of other companies here. And as Charlie said when he was here before, they're not really tuned in yet to things that are happening. So once we're on the road show here, one of the Venture South directors will come to town every month to lead these meetings. We'll meet the folks that we want them to meet to get them in line. So we don't have a specific goal for how many Wilmington companies get funded, but it gets them in the game.
I'm the one who gets to ask all the questions because I have to sit here, so. Tom, tell me how you guys differentiate entrepreneurship and small businesses.
That's an interesting question. Well, I think entrepreneurship is actually the process by, well, in our case, it's providing the education on entrepreneurship, what it actually takes to create a small business. There's an ideation process, validation process. So, entrepreneurship, for me, I've been an entrepreneur for my entire life, even in college, is that, things evolve and you learn certain things. So I think there's is it the genre? What am I saying? So I had an entrepreneurial career, but I had a variety of different businesses. So I think.
And they were all small businesses.
Yeah, they're all small businesses. I'm a small business guy.
So none of the necessarily not aligning entrepreneurship with traded sector company growth. Is that fair? Just in other words, we should be talking about, my question is, should we be talking about entrepreneurship outside of focusing on trade sector, high growth companies, and saying, no, we should be thinking about entrepreneurship as I want to start a small business that I hope to have 25, 50 employees someday.
Well, my belief and what I said, I think in order to improve the ecosystem here as far as small business, you have to grow it organically. So, yeah, that's a good question. Would you rather have 100 small businesses that generate 50 jobs, or one employer that could leave in a vacuum that takes 500 jobs away? So I think the stability of the ecosystem is better when you have a lot of strong small businesses that support each other. In contrast, we've witnessed it, like when I drive to Kingston, and you can see the textile plant that left in a vacuum, or the Georgia Pacific plant that left Columbus County in a vacuum. The question is, if you can provide balance within the ecosystem, I think it's more sustainable. So I think that's why I'm a small business guy. I invest in big companies. I certainly have interest in ventures out. Can I ask what's the minimum requirement for on the angel side or the capital side?
So first the membership, so
Yes.
it's $2,500 a year to be a member.
Right.
And then when somebody wants to invest in a company, the minimum investment is $5,000.
I was curious. It sounds like a very good concept. So.
And my one question for Diane is, your CIE has grown and evolved into something much bigger than I think it ever was even thought of in the beginning of the creation of CIE. How do you keep all of those things going? You've got so much on your plate with what, 2 people, 3 people?
2 people.
2 people,
And
and a couple of students.
Yeah. Well, the secret is collaboration and coordinated efforts. I literally don't do a single thing by myself. It is like the coalition working together, it's working with other organizations that are doing programs, it's with CFEDC perhaps, or everything I do, I bring in other partners to help us do it. There's no way Laura and I could be like doing everything that we're trying to do without that help. And then when you look at our network of mentors, and we have about
Great people, by the way.
yeah, yes, thank you. You are, right? We have about 110 mentors that are part of the program. They all are volunteering their time. We have active committees, so I'm telling all of you this just in case you have interest in participating. And I'm trying to develop programs that will be sort of self-operating and can perpetuate themselves and grow by engaging the people that are interested in fighting the fight with us.
So it's a little community-based organization.
Yes. So I'm really, I think collaboration is really the key. If you can draw on a lot of people to help you every time you are trying to get something done, and you find the people that want to support that particular initiative. I have tapped into a group that's passionate about the ocean environment and sustainable seafood, and they've been helping me with Fish 2.0, and we have people that have been very interested in the creative-based economy businesses, and we've been convening to discuss that and take those businesses forward and figure out how we can use the resources in our community to support those types of businesses, and all of it will be through collaboration. It will not be Diane and Laura doing it ourselves.
Can I quibble with Tom's answer? to the
Yes.
Entrepreneurship or small business
Yes.
question? I think we should disproportionately direct our efforts toward high growth entrepreneurial efforts. I agree with your point. We obviously don't want to put all our chips in, one bet and and then they leave town or something, and that, that obviously you want to have a diverse group. But, when you look at when we have a live oak or something like that, and the effect of how many small businesses they support, how many home builders got work, and how many cars were sold, and lawns were done, and there's just so many things. And I think we do have a very good support system for a lot of the small, lifestyle type businesses, which is basically like mine is. The business journal is a lifestyle type business. It's not unfortunately our area is not big enough for it to be like a huge entrepreneurial thing. But, I do think as much of our energies that can go to really sustaining and helping find and grow the things that can be really big successes will lift all the other small businesses with.
Well, I agree, and certainly the data shows that you get a much better multiplier when you have a traded sector venture, because you're bringing in money and resources from other places through your work here. And when you're starting a business that is a local Main Street business, the people you're paying and the money coming in is all from the local community. So you do want to have that. And that's why I point out the CB Insights list of the game-changing kinds of technologies. Those are the types of businesses that are going to be driving venture capital investment over the next 10 years. And we want to be having a balanced focus where we are driving forward. We do have the organizations that are looking at those things, and I think the CIE, SBTDC, some of our organizations are very much focused on how can we drive these tech ventures in these new fields, because if they're successful and get traction and we can grow clusters in those areas, then that's what's going to create the money coming into town to support all our fabulous restaurants, our creative-based ventures, our small businesses that are providing services, and that will result in the healthiest growing economy. You can't have everyone running a small service business, or there aren't enough people to be paying for those services.
Can I say something?
Please.
I agree with them.
But what you're doing is so fundamental, working with people that feel like they don't have opportunity in our community.
I know.
And giving them that permission to be successful and to do something.
I'm the small business champion. I'm the
Well,
Rocky.
you are, but that mindset is really, really important. And when you look at our entire state of North Carolina, you have these poverty pockets that are just horrible, and the people there are just waiting for that mill to come back, or and that's not going to happen. I mean, that's what we're seeing is these companies are, these big companies, you could get a division of GE, another division of GE to come here or something, but there's no guarantee that they're not going to leave or be bought by somebody else or whatever. So you want to have that mix. You want to have the traded sector ventures that are growing. I mean, how amazing that we have Encino and Live Oak and Castle Branch and some of these incredible companies growing here. It's phenomenal. And that will keep the talent here, that will drive more businesses to locate here, and then we'll all want to have all those great creative-based ventures and service companies and restaurants and breweries and quality of life companies.
I just appreciate that you guys are using all our keywords that are on our sign there.
Subliminal messaging was coming to me from the poster.
Did any of you have a question before I open?
I have questions for
Okay.
Rob.
Okay, well, sorry guys, hold your question.
If you ask me a tough question, I'm
Okay, Rob, how much as the regional manager for Venture South here in Wilmington, how much latitude will you have to really kind of do some things that will specifically help our regional ventures? And the reason why I ask that is I'm involved with the statewide judging for NCID and there are just so many companies from the Raleigh-Durham area and so forth. And I'm thinking about Venture South, and they're reviewing 4 to 6 companies from this entire southeast region. You know, it's going to be tough for those Wilmington companies to bubble up to, you know, being in that group. Are you able to say, okay, we had 10 companies that applied to Venture South, and you know, none of them got on and made it to the road show, but our investors here, Venture South, can do sort of like a little, you know, sub tour, sub road show, and we can do like a, you know, put on a pitch night for those investors here. Are you able to do those kinds of things so that you can kind of give our companies a boost here?
Yeah, I mean, that type of thing is one of our goals in getting Venture South here. And I said to them in the beginning, I don't care if we organize it or somebody else does, or, you know, just the fact that it's here, because the reality is there's a ton of wealth here, there's a ton of expertise here, and it's very disconnected. And there's a lot of entrepreneurship, and it's a lot of connections that aren't being made. So I think any organized group like this, and I think that's a good idea, that I think they have a fairly structured process into how a Venture South meeting goes. But that's not to say if we say, hey, at CIE next week, you're going to have a chance to see, you know, 5 up-and-coming local companies, and we invite them. I think the challenge now is just find, okay, who are the people that we would invite them. So I think, yeah, once the group is gathered, you know, I think we do that. Then there's nothing you know, they can make investments through Venture South, they can make investments on their own. And I also think I think once people see others make angel investments and have success, then it breeds more of that activity. And, you know, it's just, I mean, when last time Charlie was here, we had dinner with a few doctors. And you can imagine, you know, a couple doctors do it, they have a couple successes, they have a few more doctors, and then, so I think it's just getting getting it going, and then people who aren't even in Venture South just start hearing more about angel investing locally and see other companies. So I would hope it just takes the level of, you know, angel investing in the region up.
Good. Thank you.
My one question is kind of 50-50. You can only imagine in helping a lot of people start small local businesses is the need for them to actually get capital. I've only been here for 5 months or so, and obviously that question is the number 2 question that I'm asked is, hey, I got the business idea, but I need some money to start a business on a low level. I'm going to split the question 50-50 because you've been here, I think, 6 years, 5 years, or what?
Oh my gosh, next week it'll be 3 years.
Oh, 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years. All right.
You're a grizzled veteran.
Is 3 years, and is that I want to be able to help the people that we help with the answers. Where can we, Wilmington, Cape Fear region, figure out a way to provide low capital funding to those people that want to start a business? I don't have the answer. I need to figure out the answer because there are really great people out there that have great low capital ideas. Whether it's just as simple as a lawn care business or a veteran that wants to start something, that this is under capital. So with that said, maybe 50-50, give me an answer on any ideas and any ideas from the audience, because we're here to help. So any way that we can help those people that want to start a business would be just great. So.
But, I mean, there's a split certainly between the high growth potential businesses, which is the more angel investing area, and the lawn service business and kind of the good local solid businesses. I mean, one great resource we have here is Live Oak Bank. I mean, you look at what they back, especially in certain verticals, but I would think anybody who's looking to start a business in those areas, talk with people there. Now,
Well, I have to say that in Michigan, we had a lot of state-supported programs for microgrants for this. for
And I
those
know you do some of that too.
And we have, in Detroit, certainly there were a lot for the basic businesses that were struggling to start. There were micro grants available. In our world here in North Carolina, I don't know of any like micro grants that are available to help people start small businesses. I know that the Carolina Small Business Development Fund, which our local Coastal Women's Ventures is part of that. They do have loans, and they do work with women and minorities and veterans and trying to give them some extra help in getting loans, and they can be small dollar amounts. It is really hard. It really is very difficult, I think, for people that don't obviously have equity in their homes that they could tap into, or credit cards that they could use or something to get $2,000, $5,000 to start their business. There are very few resources for that.
Well, I mean, sometimes actually, if I talk to folks, particularly, offend any 21-year-olds in the room, I would encourage them, don't, you always hear the Mark Zuckerberg stories and things like that, but to me, sometimes it's go work for somebody, go work somewhere, go gain some expertise, not to mention hopefully gain some capital and a credit rating and people who trust you that might invest in you. If it is a carpet cleaning business or whatever it is, I think sometimes it's just not just buying into the I can quit college and become a billionaire story, but go work different places and come to events like this and talk to tons of people and get lots of life experiences and find out your area where you think you can really be successful, and then hopefully then you have champions, you have some success, and that really helps when you do kind of make that jump to your own business.
Okay, it's your turn. Does anybody remember what they wanted to ask?
Everyone talks about the region, but it doesn't function as a region. It's really Wilmington and parts of New Hanover County that operate together. Is that how do you engage Brunswick County and Pender County into this broader mission for economic feasibility and development?
Well, we have been, through the coalition, the Brunswick Community College Small Business Center is part of that. It has been a challenge, and we have found when we plan events, or especially the bigger events where we're trying to bring people together and trying to encourage people from Brunswick County to come over the bridge and stuff, it can be difficult. We have been convening the creative economy with different groups, and we've got the City of Leland and Leland Arts Council, as well as Brunswick, County of Brunswick, getting engaged in those conversations. But you're correct that it's difficult for us to work as a region, even though it is our intention to do so. It has been difficult. You wouldn't think it would be that difficult to get people together when we're very close proximity, but having a river between us just somehow, is a barrier.
Is it a river or mentality?
It's there's a lot of activity going on with entrepreneurship in Brunswick County, and the City of Leland's being really active with Gary Vidmar and the manufacturing methods and the park that are developing, trying to develop with the technology park, and they are trying, and the Small Business Center has an innovation center now that's in Leland. They're doing stuff, it's just, and we are trying to connect and participate and show up and get them to show up over here, but it's not a real smooth mix yet.
But I'd say from the business journal perspective, we define our core coverage area as the 3-county region. So like in the book on business, all of the lists, any company in the 3-county region is included in that, and a lot of our stories and things like that, we reach out. But I think our region, as far as I can tell, does not have a discernible strategy for economic development, for how do we grow existing businesses, really bring the resources. And in my mind, in my experience in several other communities, and now you know better than anybody in the room, you don't, everyone's just not going to come in and automatically work together and get huge things done. I think you just have to get the ball rolling, and I appreciate Rob being here today. To me, it's the city of Wilmington and New Hanover County, plus, I would say, the largest employers in town need to decide, okay, here's a discernible strategy. Hopefully, and probably Penwood would come in, probably take Brunswick some time to come in, probably even some of the more Columbus or probably some more outer counties, if I'm wrong, would probably maybe be coming faster than Brunswick. But I think it just has to start. Success breeds success. If people see something and feel like they're being left out, then they're more likely to join in. But I think one of the great assets of our region is we have all these people who've come in and all this expertise and all these things, but because very few people in the business community are from here, a lot of people are disconnected and it's hard to get folks together. So I think it needs to start, and I think it needs to start with the city, the county, and a few of the biggest employers.
Yes.
Yeah, you bring up a few of the biggest employers, and with some of the ideas I heard, AC, cutting lawn, etc. I work out at GE, and we make a lot of components, and we go to a machine shop that does an extremely good job at doing that, and they're in Pennsylvania. There's big businesses usually bring with them this whole supply chain. And has anybody pulled the Jay Wildmans and the other people that are running the big businesses in this town and said, what is your supply chain? Who are you buying from? Because those are business opportunities. And, a big part of starting a new business is, what do I start?
Rob, what do you hear? Do you hear about the economic development teams talking to the other, to the big corporations like PE to say, what are your businesses?
Yeah, I'm just mulling through my mind this last question was put out here. From the accounting standpoint, our job is not to create the entrepreneurial opportunities, but to set the framework for it. And in my mind, even though this is going to sound like a stretch, providing water and sewer over on 421 so that we can open up 900 acres so that we have space for people to come in. Providing the support which we do for the Cape Fear Community College so that we can provide the certification courses so that a company can come in and set up to metal lathing or whatever the situation is to help and support GE, which we already are doing. So I think again, I look at it as a framework of what the county is doing. The city's doing some of it, but I think the county's doing a lot behind the scenes to set it up. Even our support of something like the Wilson Center. And from the artistic standpoint, the work that's going over there, the support that the county gives directly to the community college, there's some absolutely wonderful things that are happening over there with the development of national tours of things that we don't hear a lot about. And I know I'm kind of off in the weeds in there, but I draw a direct line about what the county is already doing there in support for the community college and the Wilson Center, so that there can be, people can take it to the next stage. But it's frustrating. I think Rob nailed it a little bit earlier here. this kind of sense of all these different economic groups, this one right here, this room being one of them. And we get together, I don't know how many meetings I've gone to, or panels just like this, where we hear wonderful ideas. They're all out there, but they're all like this. And so who is the one, and maybe it is the county, or a combination of the county and the city, to kind of rope them all together there and say, here's the strategy. I'm going to make one more point and then I'll shut up, I promise.
Okay, only one Rob on this panel.
I think a number of the people in this room have gone with us to the trips that the Chamber of Commerce takes to other cities. And we talk to them about their chambers, their business communities, their political entities as a group from Wilmington. We go there. The thing we hear time and again is alignment. And from the political, through the government, through the educational, through the major manufacturers there in the chambers of commerce. They all are working in one, so one speaking for all. It's amazing. That's where Greenville, South Carolina, they say that Richmond said the same thing, Charleston saying the same thing. And I don't believe we have that here.
And where does that start? Who owns that? Whose job is that?
Certainly, the county elected officials should be a major part of it.
We've heard from two of you who agree, right? Jonathan was here a few months ago saying exactly the same thing.
Exactly.
So what do we have to do? I mean, if that's a thing that we need for our region to have this growth in place. Yes?
I'm struck by the question from our friend from GE talking about supply chain and having to go outside this region to get the supply chain assistance that they needed GE. I consider that to be an incredible state of affairs.
It is.
That somebody here is not matching up and knocking on the door at GE and saying, here's 10 different capable companies who can do this. Now, that is a failure of the way we do economic development in the region. We go out hunting for a firm at a time with a rifle trying to find this big player to come down here, a paint company or a wheel manufacturer for railroads or whatever it happens to be. We hunt for them one at a time. And that is the wrong way to go. We ought to be talking to our largest companies like GE, finding out what their real supply chain needs are. And that's what our economic development people should be doing as their highest priority. Rob, in your paper, you recently had an article about the fact that there are now 30 firms in the PPD model, CROs, Commercial Research Organizations. They are surrounded by 70 other firms, according to your reporting, who are also in providing support to that, a supply chain, if you will, for that group. I contend that as a leadership organization, from an economic development point of view, from the county, the city, and the organizations we employ to do these things, we are not asking the right questions, and we're not focusing where we should be focusing. This is not a new problem, folks. A lot of places around the country have already tackled this issue and have come up with ways to do more with their economic clusters. That's what Diane is doing with the marine resources. And I think it's one of the most impressive things going on in the area, and I totally congratulate her for that effort. So I say let's adopt that philosophy across the board. Let's go meet with GE. Let's find out how they can be helped by manufacturing methods or others, whoever they happen to be, who could probably do exactly what's being done up there at another location. That's a shameful situation. I'd love to see you overflowing with opportunities with local firms. And if they don't measure up, fine, go somewhere else. But the opportunity should be presented to the company you're doing.
But that's not where our public dollars are going. Our public dollars are going to other kinds of recruitment activities. And that just doesn't work. If you look at Raleigh or the Raleigh region or Charlotte region, business community, the Chamber of Commerce, the local governments have a strategy. We may not agree with their strategy, but they agree with their strategy within those regions, and they're playing it out. So you don't hear, our money is just wasted on hunting for the last buffalo that may wander down here. Somehow, what you all represent, needs to be articulated in terms of public policy. We put money into these efforts with just no yield.
Yes, Terry?
I made this comment before down at the meeting at the Chamber of Commerce in Bill and I were in that meeting. And the difference between what's going on here and other places in the country is leadership. The ability to think, to vision, and to be inclusive and diverse in your thought and with your people. It all begins with leadership. There's so many silos in this city, and I'm a native. And so I've come back and I see the silos that exist. I'm not going to play in a silo. I'm not going to be a part of, I made a decision not to play in a silo and not to be a part of a clique. I just want to see and do what's best for Wilmington because it's about legacy. So when you ask yourself from a legacy perspective, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Then it's not about you. It's about the area and the environment that you're in. So there has to be a transformation of the thought and the philosophies of leaders in this region, especially in Wilmington. And until that happens, Wilmington will continue to go down the road of, I came back in 2013 and we're still having that same conversation. And it hasn't changed. And the problem that I see is, if you're not a part of the clique, then I'm not going to support you regardless of how good your idea is. And I'm just not seeing that in Wilmington. That has to change.
Terry, while you're standing up, Terry Jackson is bringing some of the most outstanding business leaders in the world to Wilmington, North Carolina. They are being sponsored by our leading corporations and by others in the community who have a commonality of appreciation for what these outstanding speakers can do for us. Why don't you just describe Marshall and the other two who are coming briefly as a case in point for how we're trying to bring change to Wilmington?
Well, you know, we don't have to recreate the wheel, right? All we have to do is be able to observe who is successful, how they're being successful, and follow the model. Maybe we tweak the model a little bit. So if we can have the best leadership minds in the world come to Wilmington and speak and talk about their model of how they're doing things, and not only how they're doing things, but how they see others do things around the globe. It seems like we would want to be students of that. And so bringing Marshall Goldsmith here, considered the #1 leadership mind in the world, which that happened February 28th, he was, for me, the kickoff of what needs to happen in Wilmington, because it's obvious that a lot of people in Wilmington are not listening to a lot of people in Wilmington. So let's have an outside influence who has coached more than 200 CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. So he knows what's going on. The next event is September the 19th, and we're bringing Rob Nail to the city. Rob Nail is CEO of Singularity University. Well, in going to a couple of the large organizations around here, I found out that New Hanover Regional is already doing business with Singularity University. I found that out through Chris Hilliard. So he wanted to meet Rob. And they're working with companies throughout the world around technology, how to implement technology, and what we should be looking for 5 and 10 years from now. Now that conversation is going to be a conversation around artificial intelligence. What does it take for Wilmington to create an artificial intelligence community to support the ecosystem of AI? I recently became a member of AI Bridge. So it's about technology. After that, from a women's leadership perspective, we're bringing Sally Helgeson here because we heard at the Marshall Goldsmith event from the ladies who were a part of it that we really need to deal with women's leadership. When I heard that, PPD spoke up, as well as New Hanover Regional. So Sally wrote the book, How Women Rise. And she'll be coming October the 15th. And Bill, you don't know this yet, but 2 days ago I reached out to a gentleman to hopefully bring him here in 2020. This gentleman he set he set the bar real high for those who give commencements speeches. And his name is Robert F. Smith, CEO of Vista. He's worth $5 billion. And I reached out for him to come to Wilmington to speak because he's in the arena where we all want to be from a technology perspective. He just happens to be a fraternity brother. He just happened to have gone down to Morehouse University, and he and his foundation is going to pay off all of their student loans. Knowing that he's a member of my fraternity, I said, the only thing I can do now is to reach out to him and use certain language in hopes that he'll accept it and bring him to Wilmington. And all that I'm doing, I've been trying to collaborate. We've collaborated with the Swain Center. We've gone down to the Chamber, CIE. We've been to the Greater Business Wilmington Journal. PPD was a partner in the last event. New Hanover Regional is going to be a partner in the next event, as well as PPD. They've already committed dollars to these events. And for Sally Hepperson, both have already committed. So now it's just a matter of educating the public as to why. It's not about Terry Jackson. It's about the legacy and wanting to make Wilmington a better city and a world-class city, because it has the opportunity to be a world-class city if we can just do away with the silos and understand what the mission is. I've never been a part of the military, and you have people from all over different backgrounds that go to get together in the military, and they are mission-driven. And so that's what I kind of believe in. It's the mission. Let's do what's right for the city. Let's do what's right for the region.
Cool, let me come back and get back to Clark, who had a question earlier.
Oh, man, that was a lot to follow.
Oh, I know.
Well, I think it's part of the same dialogue we've been having all these questions and answers. It's kind of the regionality, but it's also what is that vision? What is that mission? And we haven't really defined what that mission is. We don't have a strategy that says, here's what we're trying to accomplish, which leads to how you accomplish it. I'm biased. I'm planning and sustainability consultant. I'm also a startup entrepreneur who is in that not rapidly growing sector, who's a smaller business, but who struggles to find capital. But what role do the public agencies have, not only in groups like CFEDC, in helping to foster that vision, that collaborative, that regional, however you define it, economic development strategy about who we want to be and how we want to get there? But also in other decisions like planning and development, and how do we maintain quality in place, and the role of quality in place in that built environment in order to foster that type of environment where we're recruiting and growing, rapidly growing companies with a population of smaller businesses that support them. We have a lot of, we do operate in silos, and I'm on the board at CFEDC, and we're one of these groups, but we are independent. We're not financed by anybody, so we try to be as open as possible. We struggle to bring people together that don't want to be part of a dialogue like tonight. And they don't want to hear these things because they're going down their road, and they don't want to hear anything outside of that. So I guess the ultimate question is, in terms of the sense of place, quality of place, things like environmental quality, a selection of housing options, multiple interesting districts rather than one district, what role does that play in helping to foster the type of environment that gets venture south here? Like, why were we ignored until you engage them through equipped? I mean, we're not a tiny place. We're not a tiny region in the Southeast, in North and South Carolina. Why did it take you? Why were we not engaged by them directly beforehand? What turned them off? And in terms of Brian Hamilton, what drew you here? Like, what drew Brian Hamilton here? Like, are there different things? Or was it that we do seem disconnected and we don't have our act together, we don't have a vision and a strategy and something that says, hey, we are all partners that are going to help you succeed? And is that what turned off Venture South? And is that what turns on Brian Hamilton Foundation? And that we need some more of that going.
I think for Venture South, I can speak for the folks, who started it, but from my conversations with them, I think they always wanted to come to Wilmington and recognize it's a good opportunity. But I think probably one of the things we suffer from is we're not it's a nice way to say this, a top tier market, right? We're not, thinking, well, where do I want to go do business? Well, let's say North Carolina, well, I mean, obviously Raleigh and Charlotte there's gonna be more opportunity there, there's more things going on there. So I would say, you know, as part of the answer for Venture South, or more importantly, part of the answer for a lot of these things is we need to tell our story. And frankly, despite ourselves, we have a great story. I mean, PPD, Live Oak, I mean, big, you know, GE, Corning, Verizon.
Well, this is all a commercial for Fluent Public Relations.
But I think, you know, I think that's one of the things in our strategy, and you know, part of our economic development should just be, you know, telling the up and coming Chip Mahans and Fred Eshelmans and Brett Martins, hey, you know, look at Brett Martin, you know, 10-person company in Raleigh who decided to move here for lifestyle reasons. And by the way, that's our selling point. We want to move here because it's a great center of business. It's a great place to have a life, and with modern technology, you can pretty much be anywhere. And now Live Oak and Encino have proven beyond a doubt a modern technology company can exist and be built from scratch here into public company, private company that have extremely high valuations. But I think we're not telling that story. And I mean, I'm from the Northeast originally and lived in the Midwest. And, you know, you still have to tell a lot of people where Wilmington is. And we regularly have subscribers who are trying to subscribe to Wilmington, Delaware business. And, you know, and it needs to become, you know, I think it's good we're not known necessarily as like Myrtle Beach, just tourism, but yeah, they branded themselves over many, many years. That's a beach town to come to on vacation. And you know, Charleston is probably our best model for a diversified economy that has tourism and tech and manufacturing. But you know, that doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you need to tell that story in probably targeted ways, targeted industries, and that's where the having strategy comes in.
I would like to say one thing. I can't remember in the 5 months, I've probably driven 18,000 miles, and I do a lot of work. When I go to Columbus County or it feels like I'm going to a different state, I will tell you. I mean, when I do work in Columbus County or Brunswick County, the parameters of how we do it, the structure of how things are done, I have to do a complete model of how I promote the foundation in one county versus different. What I will tell you though, that Wilmington is amazing. I can thank Bill for being my mentor here, and Diane and everybody here to make my job easier in promoting the work of the foundation here. To answer your question, there is a lot of unity here, but to answer your question, when it starts to go outside in Hanover County, it's a different, even when you trying to share contacts and so forth, it's almost like a different thing. When I go to Henry County or Hounslow County and I go to Jacksonville, it's a whole different process. And I'm not frustrated by it, it's just the way that it is. I don't know if I answered
different, like more closed off, or how is it?
It's different in the sense that the point of contacts, like for example in Columbus County, there's 2 different school systems. There's Whiteville and Columbus County school systems. So there's different economic contacts, and they have different ways of how they respond. It can be a little bit slower in Columbus County, maybe a little bit quicker here. So there's a lot of dynamics that are different in each of those counties, which makes it interesting. Trust me, my job is definitely not boring, but I can tell you that every day I have to put a different hat on and figure out, you know, what happens. So it's.
Well, all 3 of you are incredibly busy people, so I'm very thankful that you would give your time for this. We have just a couple of quick things to tie up before we close. I know you're dying to raise your hand and ask a question, but you can stick around. I do want to let you know that if anybody wants to go to WTF, they have set aside room for us there if people want to continue to have a conversation. We are a membership-based organization, and if you're not a member, we'd like you to be one. So, bottom line, grab this. If you have questions about memberships, somebody who has one of these things on, and there's membership forms here. This region has a lot of opportunity, you guys. We are all here because we know that, right? We all know, and of course, my particular passion happens philosophy on entrepreneurship because I've seen it happen when I was in Seattle and when I was in Atlanta and even in Baltimore. And watched it grow and happen. I was at 5G conference last week and talked entirely about how 5G is going to make or break economic development for every city in this state. The head of IT for all of North Carolina was there and he was saying, economic development will not happen if cities and counties do not implement 5G starting almost now. No company's going to want to move there. So things like this, things we're working on, the core that Diane supports every day, the new kinds of things Brian Hamilton's bringing, the ability to have access to funding that we've never had before. This is a huge growth for us. He's right. 10 years ago, I moved here 8 years ago, and there wasn't a CIE. Right there. This is a whole new thing, and I just want to thank you guys for coming out here, showing up, and taking this seriously because we got to figure out how we're going to help. Rob can't do it by himself, so we got to figure this out. That Rob, you eat.
Let's just keep our point.
At any rate, we want to thank you. Please think about membership. Thank you very much for being here.